Hey, everybody, this is Chris McCabe. I'm one of the co-creators of the Seller Velocity Conference, which is coming up soon, New York City, May 1st and 2nd. As some of you may know, especially if you're already holding a ticket, the VIP day, day 2 on May 2nd, has panels. And one of our panels will be a successful brand panel. And fortunately, we have a successful brand owner, Keith Gregory, here from Highland Labs, who will be on that panel. How are you doing, Keith?
Thanks, Chris. Good to be here today.
Glad you'll be flying in, coming to us from the West Coast. And I've been glad to be working with you for this many years. And I mean, let's just talk about your overall experience with how growth has gone. And of course, the panel will be talking about success stories, pain points, struggles, dealings with Amazon. But if you had to kind of condense it into a couple of sentences, what would you say your overall, brand story has been over the last few years on Amazon?
I think, we're a little different than most of the traditional brands on Amazon because we didn't start on Amazon, right?
Right.
We were a traditional brick and mortar brand and market for 20 years plus, and made that leap onto Amazon, right? And so we had to learn the quote unquote, how to be successful on Amazon, which is very different of the route you typically take in your traditional brick and mortar retailers. The explosive growth pre-COVID, more crazy growth during COVID, coming to the backside of COVID. It's been more a story of sustaining the growth from the previous years and then trying to deal with all of the challenges that Amazon continues to throw our way from, fees and increased PPC costs and just managing the platform, right? And the bigger you get, the more challenging it gets, right?
Yeah. Well, you've had probably some interesting issues with competition that you've had to delve into. Sometimes that means, crazy messages from Amazon. You're not sure where they come from. Fees, of course, that's a huge topic. And I'm sure that's going to be coming up at the conference. But aside from increased ad costs and increased fees, are you noticing that in the post-COVID era, at least competition has sort of become more predictable, or is it still kind of all over the map where people see that there's a lucrative industry here and they want to jump onto it?
It's the same story, different mechanisms, right? For attacking your competitors. We have this new tactics. It seems like people have caught on to some new tricks. I don't even know if I want to say what those are on here.
Probably
people
not.
Aware of those.
We may talk about general tricks and competitor attacks on the panel, but I think most brand owners know what you mean already. So,
and it seems like it's been pretty relentless, and I think that is a sign of the increased competition on the platform. Amazon continues to ratchet or shrink people's margins, right? That is forcing a lot of people to look for other ways to exploit opportunities on the platform until like Amazon's doing a very good job of policing that. It's forcing us in industry actually to have to be more proactive and police the platform and our competitors as well.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's kind of your job to do this and flag it and get it to Amazon, and then Amazon just kind of mops up the initial problem, but doesn't really take a look at the overall picture?
You can tell they're so busy we don't even get responses on things now. But magically things get reinstated or things happen in the background. But almost no acknowledgement from the Amazon side.
Yeah, they do. That's true. They're not really sending performance notifications as much, not just for you, but for all our clients. Sometimes it's just fixed and you have to kind of wake up and look and, oh yeah, it's done. And they didn't necessarily even tell you, because they're drowning in this stuff, right?
Even in case law, like Leah and I have been working on the case, she put something a few days ago and looked yet, it's rare that they put 3-4 days without, looking, something you put in. That's becoming more and more common.
Do you think, is the silver lining in that cloud that you're so used to dealing with these types of things that it's like you don't panic as much initially? You kind of know what it's about, you know what to do about it? Or is there always that element out there of like, what the heck is this? is this different than the last time?
It definitely depends on the ASIN, right? It's your top selling ASIN that goes down for a stupid reason, then you're going to think a little bit still.
Mm-hmm.
We are
Yeah.
definitely more immune. And challenge is, especially in like our space, um, Amazon will make up a new rule tomorrow or react
Right.
to something the FDA or the FTC has said, and something that's been okay for 5 years suddenly isn't.
Yeah.
There's always something changing, and then I read pieces from you about basin suspensions are leading to account suspicions and suspensions now, and that
For
certainly
restricted
doesn't make you.
products.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
certainly doesn't make you feel good.
Well, and it actually gets a little worse than that. It was restricted products mostly for the first 2 months of the year. In the last 30 to 45 days, we're starting to see, not that you want to hear this, but defective item complaints that could just be stray, one offs, basically, edge case stuff, leading to either account health called me and said, we got to resolve this right away, or there's going to be another review and they might take another action on the account, or they're treating it like they did the restricted products ones, where suddenly a few condition complaints on one ASIN means like your account's going to be suspended. And I don't feel like that's been well advertised by the company for 2024. I mean, clearly something has changed because we've seen an uptick in the number of accounts getting fully reviewed for one ASIN, a handful of condition complaints. So I wish I had better news on that, but yeah, that's going to be something we talk about on the panel, I'm sure, because we're tracking that, for the next few weeks. Any other stories you want to share in terms of either your interactions with Amazon or, positive things that you've seen on their side in terms of how they manage your category or how they've given you opportunities to win instead of lose on a few things?
I do feel like they are listening to a certain degree at the chatter going on out there in industry, right? So, I'm pretty vocal on LinkedIn regarding
Right.
what I would consider fraudulent products in our space. And I did have the opportunity to speak to two upper senior managers in risk management at Amazon that reached
Okay.
out to me, right?
Yep.
And, it was interesting. Myself, another colleague from a very large brand that also sells on Amazon, spoke to them about, the things we see, the testing we've done on third party testing on other products on Amazon that we know are completely bogus. A
Yeah.
lot of lip service, right? Like they sat there, they listened to us, they expressed concern. They talked about ways they could possibly be involved in industry, ways that they could be more aware and proactive of what's going on. Um, on the flip side of that, right? No action, right? Nothing comes out of that. We seen them be more proactive. We haven't seen them join any industry trade organizations. Um, I do think amongst senior management there probably is a desire to be more involved in some of these industries that they are,
Right.
that are heavily regulated. I just don't think there's the executive support there for it, or it's just a time constraint thing, right? Because the dollars aren't the big deal, right? You
Right.
want to be a, board member on some of these large trade organizations. It's pennies for Amazon, right?
Right. Of course.
Um,
Yeah.
but it does require time from people to be involved in those things, right? And there's people expressing interest at the same. You don't see action coming from it, right?
Right.
And that's the
Right.
frustrating part.
They're
And
laying
just
groundwork, maybe. Yeah.
and I think a lot of people within our industry are getting tired of zero proactive really regulation on the platform from Amazon standpoint. And so they're starting to
Mm-hmm.
take things into their own hands. Some of the big players in our industry are seeing brands on Amazon now because Amazon refuses to police the marketplace.
Right.
And some of these things are going to make headlines across the country because Amazon's refusing to themselves, and industry is basically fine. We'll police it ourselves if you guys want.
I mean, I think sometimes it's because they haven't figured out how to do it. It's not a lack of desire. They just don't put the resources behind uncovering the best solution. And maybe they get tired of researching what that is, or they don't have the methodology straight. And even though you're in an entirely different, category, some of this reminds me of what they went through with Nike, where Nike partnered with Amazon more or less to get something out of it, which would be, can you keep counterfeit off the site? And they wanted, I mean, it's not a lack of desire. I think Amazon wanted to keep counterfeit Nike off the site. They weren't able to do it, let's say, to Nike's satisfaction. And so that partnership ended. But I mean, that could have been a precedent for all kinds of brands going forward, where all sorts of people would create kinds of partnerships with Amazon, or, expanded their relationships, or maybe launched more SKUs instead of just 3 that have 10 by now, as long as they knew that they wouldn't have to do this whack-a-mole stuff with people jumping on their listings or getting attacked by competitors or having all these sort of hiccups, right? I think they want these things. It's just like might be years away, which isn't what you want to hear as a brand owner, right?
And I think if I were to look kind of at the glass lens of what Amazon is trying to do, they want to automate any processes they put in place, right? They want to be able to utilize an automation to police the marketplace, right? And especially in our industry, it's just possible. You have to be able to take those products, send them out for testing to validate results. It's
Right.
the manual process with third parties involved. That's not something you can write AI learning model to figure out. You might be able to bring awareness to highly suspect items based on price point on the marketplace compared to other products, with similar ingredients.
Yeah.
And find those outliers. But you still have some manual process there to bad actors.
Oh, for sure.
That's not really, top of Amazon's to-do list.
I think it's the number one pain point, the number one complaint we hear from brand owners in all categories is, we're having a miserable time with these interlopers on our listings or changes to our detail page. Like, whether it's AI or not, like, can you just help us out and make life a little bit less strenuous and whack-a-mole difficult in terms of troubleshooting all these problems that Amazon kind of shoves it onto your shoulders, right? And they leave it up to you. The onus is on you to tell them something needs to get fixed. And so I think there's some progress towards a dialogue where they'll understand that they're tiring you out, if that's the right phrase, because from all these, sort of death by 1,000 cuts that you have to deal with. It's just that they haven't had the incentive. You're not fleeing Amazon and running somewhere else right now. So they haven't had the interest in, we better start solving Keith's problems quicker, better, faster. Otherwise he's going to bolt, So that seems to be the missing piece. They're definitely more receptive and aware than they were. I mean, right? 2021, were they listening at all? Probably not. I don't know.
In different ways they did. It just depends what it is. Like, I would say from a brand owner's perspective, it's harder to implement change on our own listings these days than it was in 2021. And that's
right
from a place of brand registry. And we obviously should be able to change our listing images when we want to, and we should be able to update packaging as needed. So that at least the listing matches the new packaging.
Yeah.
You would think Amazon would want that. And trying to push changes through catalog lately has been nearly impossible. They come back and go, oh, well, this ASIN's also listed in XYZ country that we don't even have access to. And until that gets updated, all the ASIN is universally the same across the entire globe. We'll push the changes through, and you're just like, okay, guys, how hard do you want to make this on us? Right.
Well, food for thought and food for the panel on May 2nd. Thanks again for joining us in New York. And of course, we're looking forward to the panel with you and other brands. We're going to be talking about this and all sorts of other wonderful similar topics. So if you're listening to this and you already have a ticket, you'll be seeing me and Keith in New York, and we look forward to that. If you haven't yet decided if you can make it to New York or you're on the fence, please join us May 1st and 2nd, Seller Velocity Conference in New York City. And looking forward to it. See you soon,
Great.
Keith.
Thanks, Chris.